My name is Sheila Forester. I trust you're very well. I am delighted and also thankful to the Bridgeville Public Library for giving me this opportunity to speak about a topic that is really very near and dear to my heart, that topic being meditation. Thought maybe I'd first start with just a little bit about me and how I got involved in meditation. I first started to meditate back in the 80s, mid-80s, shortly after the birth of my first child, Laura. Now, Laura was born premature, about 10 weeks. And back then, the technology just wasn't what it is today. And given her tiny size and complications, the doctors gave Laura only a 30% chance of surviving. And interestingly, up to that point in my life, I really had no interest in God or religion or even spirituality. But with the terrifying prospect of losing my baby, I did what I suppose most mothers of no faith would do. I just began to pray, and I prayed and I prayed. And for months, while Laura laid in the hospital, struggling for her life to stay alive, I would slip off into the hospital chapel and pray for her. And I know it was through that crying out for help that I began to open up spiritually. There's a very happy ending to this story. Laura did survive, and today she's an incredible woman with actually no side effects from her early birth. But back then, once Laura was on the road to recovery, a friend suggested that I join a meditation group where we lived. My friend was a meditator himself, and he thought the meditation would help me because he knew I was under a lot of stress with a newborn. And I remember the first time I sat down to meditate, it felt like I had come home, like I had been meditating before. It's just the oddest experience for me. It was like meditation wasn't something new to me at all. That old adage, you take like a duck to water. That's how I was with meditation. It's not to say that I didn't struggle over the years with having the perfect meditation, but I just intuitively sensed that meditation would be kind of a foundational aspect, a core discipline in my life. Again, that was the 1980s, and since then I've tried many meditations. I've gone on long-term silent meditation retreats where you give up everything, for 12 days or 10 days, where you give up your cell phone. You're not permitted to bring any literature, talk to anyone, but you meditate for hours on end, and you're literally alone with your mind that whole time, in the hopes that you can go beyond your thoughts, go beyond your mind. I've also dabbled in a lot of different personal and group meditations. I've dabbled with different techniques. And interestingly, all of them, every single meditation that I've tried has brought me something, kind of a golden nugget that's helped me in my search for greater well-being, for greater peace. I tell people that I'm not an expert in meditation, but I've certainly had a lot of experience with it. One meditation that I have become particularly fond of is called Transmission Meditation, which is a free group practice that helps us personally, personal well-being, but it's also a service to the world. It's a very unique meditation. And in 1990, when I moved to Pittsburgh, I started the first transmission meditation group here. And today we have 3 groups that meet throughout the greater Pittsburgh area, including one right here in the South Hills. There's several hundred transmission groups around the planet. Regionally, I also coordinate transmission meditation in 10 states throughout the Midwest region. What I'd like to do in our time together, because it could very well be that you have no background in meditation and you're just wanting to learn a little bit more. So what I'd like to do is just sort of explore some of the general thoughts on meditation, the holistic benefits that ongoing meditation can bring us. I'll talk a little bit about the obstacles to meditation and offer a few techniques. And then I'd like to end my time with you speaking a little bit more on transmission meditation. What is meditation? There's lots of definitions out there. For me, simply said, meditation is stilling the mind. In one sense, you're already meditating. I tell people that every time you zone out in front of the television, or when you let your mind sort of drift away like a cloud floating by, you are in an unconscious state of meditation. But the meditation that I'm talking about today is a meditation where you're alert, you're focused, and you're aware, rather than being unconscious. There's a big difference between the two of them. And look, I mean, people have been meditating for ages on this planet, especially in the Eastern Hemisphere. But meditation here in the West is becoming rapidly more mainstream. There is today, versus when I first started to meditate, there's a wealth of information online, and often in most libraries. I give several library talks, and before the talk, I go straight to the spiritual section, and there's always a book on meditation available, maybe also in the Bridgeville Library. I'm going to check that out once the COVID-19 restrictions are uplifted. And today, even on our smartphones, there's literally dozens and dozens of meditation apps that people can download onto their smartphones. And I've actually seen a few of these apps advertised on television. So again, very mainstream. That's a wonderful thing. But you might be wondering, why meditate? Why should we even engage in meditation at all? Well, if you meditate, there are a multitude of benefits that can come your way, benefits that affect us on every single level: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Today, science supports these benefits. Doctors are even prescribing meditation to their patients as a way to deal with their anxiety and stress. I know I've had some wonderful conversations with my primary care physician about meditation. He's much on board with that. But from on the physical level, we know that meditation can boost the immune system, can lower the heart rate, can lower our blood pressure. Emotionally speaking, daily meditation can reduce our stress and our worry. And on the mental level, many people who meditate, including myself, can attest that meditation improves our concentration. We have greater mental clarity when we make meditation part of our daily rounds. This is something you might be interested in knowing. There is a Nobel Prize winner. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, a biochemist who has been conducting research at the University of Southern California to prove that meditation actually slows down the aging process. That's incredible. I'm anxious to see the results to that, and really just that idea that meditation can slow down the aging process can be a huge incentive to start meditating, right? So there's lots and lots of benefits when we make meditation a daily discipline, again, physically, emotionally, mentally. But for me and for many people I know who meditate, the ultimate benefit is the spiritual nourishment it provides. Because that spiritual component is to many the ultimate benefit. Let's focus on the spiritual aspect just a bit. You may have heard of Wayne Dyer. He is an author and was an author and motivational speaker. He passed away actually just a few years ago. You may have seen him on PBS. He gave a lot of talks there, and he wrote many books on meditation. And one of those books, Wayne Dyer made a statement that stayed with me for years. And that statement is this. He said, the soul can be found in the gap between our thoughts. There's so much relevancy to that statement. The soul can be found in the gap between our thoughts. It's the idea that if we routinely sit down and quiet the mind, we can enter the domain of the soul itself. What's the soul? Many people have, ideas about that. Some people call it the higher self, the God immanent, that divine energy center, that essential aspect that we truly are, that exists within each and every one of us. And if we are able to enter that soul space in meditation, there is nothing, my friends, but the experience of and reality of absolute indescribable bliss. Many people have written about this bliss, and what this is like. Words really can't describe it, so I'm not even going to try, but it's absolutely a beautiful space to be in. It's that idea that be still and know God. So each time we sit down and we meditate, we have the opportunity to connect and experience that soul. Again, it exists within each and every one of us. The universe is within each and every one of us. And all we have to do is to be quiet and tap into that source. Now, there are some obstacles to meditation. Most people experience them. It's the difficulty, I think, for most people, that we live in a very busy, modern, noisy life. We have our cell phones, we have television, just to name a few, external noises, that we deal with. But we also deal with internal noise, that constant stream of thoughts that enter our consciousness all the time. And all this noise, external and internal, really, to my mind, creates a barrier between ourselves, the personality, and the soul. And when I speak about the personality, I'm talking about that person that you look at in the mirror every day, that Sheila, that Aaron, that John, whatever, that personality that we identify with. But with regular meditation, we can dissolve that barrier. I like to think of meditation as a bridging mechanism that links the personality to the soul. So each time that we're successful in quieting the mind, a little bit of that barrier dissolves, and a little bit more each time we meditate, until eventually, incrementally, that barrier is gone and we are fully linked together and aligned with our soul. And that, my friend, is the real power and the goal of meditation. And it is so foundational for anyone who seeks to live a spiritual life. But now, if you're just interested in learning about meditation and have heard that it helps to reduce stress, that is absolutely fine, because that's why I got involved in meditation back in the 80s. But again, I'm just saying there is this magnificent spiritual element that comes with meditation. Obstacles, again, many people who first begin to meditate are often surprised and even shocked when they realize how undisciplined their mind really is. It's like the mind has a mind of its own. It's often been called the monkey mind, the mind that rapidly jumps from one thought to another and just seems uncontrollable. But that's not true in my experience anyway. Quieting the mind is not easy to do for many people, but it's not impossible. I've had people tell me, I'm not good at meditation, it's just not for me. But meditation is really like anything else. The more you do it, the better you'll become at quieting the mind, dissolving the barrier. Practice is key. It's like anything else. I mean, you go to the gym to build muscles, you just don't go once, you make it a habit, and then you begin to see results, just like meditation. You keep at it day after day, eventually you'll experience results and benefits. This is kind of an esoteric thought, but I think it's another reason that makes meditation challenging for some people. And it's the idea that we identify ourselves as personality, and the personality knows itself through movement, through activity, through physical movement. We know ourselves through emotions. We know ourselves through our mental thoughts. And we thrive and sometimes pride ourselves on how much we do each day. The busiest people I know are often the ones who don't have time to meditate or have the hardest time learning to meditate. So it's the idea really that anything that slows down the activity of the personality, such as meditation, the personality wants nothing to do with it. The personality on its own does not want to sit down and quiet itself. It sees meditation as a prescription for its own demise. But with meditation, you can remember who's in charge. It's not the personality, it's your soul. And it's the soul really that urges us eventually to learn to meditate so we can be aligned with that divine center so that we can experience the soul's higher qualities of love, of compassion, of strength, of beauty. It's a wonderful thing. There are, as I said earlier, there's a multitude of information on meditation. There are a lot of techniques available to us today. Most meditations offer a technique, and that technique is to give the mind one thing and only one thing to focus on. And that technique could be focusing on the breath, or repeating a word or a mantra like Om, or calm, or quiet. There's a lot of words people use to give the mind something to focus on. One technique is focusing on a chakra, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Or even staring at a candle flame. I did that for a number of years. Focusing on one thing keeps the mind from wandering off in 100 different directions. It takes practice to focus on one thing, but it's definitely worthwhile. I would say the most universal meditation technique is to focus on the breath. And we do that by just finding a quiet place, sitting down upright in a comfortable position, and begin to observe the breath, the rise and the fall, the rhythm of the breath. Allow your mind only to focus on the breath cycle. You'll find that if you do this, a thought will enter your mind. That's inevitable. Don't judge that thought. Don't give it any energy. Don't follow it. Don't judge yourself for having a thought. If you have a thought, you just go back to focusing on the breath, the rise and fall. And if you keep this up, you will find that your mind will quiet itself. It will eventually become more and more still. Another meditation technique that I did for a number of years is counting. I would count from 1 to 4. Some people count 1 to 10, whatever. So what you do is, again, you sit down, close your eyes, and you let your mind, you take a breath in, and you let your mind think and visualize the number 1 as you both inhale and exhale. Focus only on the number 1, only that. Then with your next in-breath, you focus on the number 2 as fully as you possibly can. And do this until you reach the number 4. Then you go back to number 1. Visualize the number 1 in your in and out breath. Number 2, number 3, number 4. Again, if a thought enters your mind when you're counting, don't give it any energy. Go back to focusing on the number that you were on. I found over the years when I used this technique that I would notice suddenly that I was on number 23 or number 12 or whatever, which meant I had totally lost my focus and my thoughts were elsewhere. No shame in that, no problem. I just would return again and focus back on the number 1. Those are just one of many of the techniques of meditation. Frequency of meditation, I would encourage daily meditation, 15 minutes at first. 15 minutes out of how many minutes a day are there? I think there's 1,400 or more. 15 minutes is doable, right? To my mind. People have told me I can't find the time to meditate. I have all these things to do. And we do have a lot of things to do, but we find time to do, to watch television, to exercise, to eat. We have to find time to scroll through our social media feeds, whatever it is we like to do. 15 minutes is not a lot of time when you consider all of the benefits that meditation can bring us. You may find if you begin meditating and you stay with it, and as you progress with meditation, that you may organically just extend your time. The soul has its own rhythm in a sense. There's times that 15 minutes feels sufficient for me. And then there's times in my life that an hour goes by and it's just the right amount of time for me. I suggest you find a quiet space in your home. And if possible, meditate at the same time each day, preferably in the morning. Why the morning? Because meditation can really set the tone and prepare you for the day ahead. So I would suggest 15 minutes or more in the morning. Now, when you begin to meditate and you make effort, you'll begin to find that changes will occur within yourself. So interesting that when you begin to meditate and experience even the slightest hint of the soul's energy, not only do we switch on this inner pharmacy that helps us reap all these benefits, again, physically, emotionally, mentally, but we also change as a person. We find we become more altruistic in a sense. We feel drawn to help other people. We feel drawn to serve in some way. Why is that? It's because the nature of the soul is to serve. It wants to contribute to the world. So each time you meditate, you're aligning yourself more with the soul and its higher qualities. So a natural outcome, again, would be a change in how we view the world and ourselves. We'll want to give back in some way. And that, to my mind, is really why we're here. You've probably heard that saying, we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience. It's just the opposite. We are divine beings having a physical experience. So when you begin to meditate, expect that your focus is going to change to, how can I help others? I mentioned at the beginning of this talk that I participate in what's called transmission meditation, which is a way to help others. It is a way to give back to the world. It's considered a service meditation, but at the same time, it enhances our overall well-being. I like to joke that if you're a multitasker, if you like to do two things at once, you may love transmission meditation, because again, it helps us to give back to the world, but it is also a way to grow spiritually ourselves. There are, I think the last count, 600-700 transmission meditation groups around the planet. And all of these groups, like the groups here in Pittsburgh, they come physically together and they sound what's called the Great Invocation. The Great Invocation is a non-denominational prayer that's used by millions around the planet. It's been translated into dozens of languages. And it basically essentially says, let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. And so as the groups recite this prayer, this invocation, healing energies begin to flow through the transmission group and then out into the world. The energies are set down to a level that makes them more available to more people. It's interesting, the transmission groups act as what we like to call substations for these spiritual energies. We invoke the energies by sounding the great invocation. We allow them to move through us. And as they do so, the potency of these energies are lowered to a level that allows people to take them in at greater ease. What energies am I talking about here? Well, they are the energies of love, of divine light, of divine will, among many others. These are energies that are galvanizing humanity to act and bring about the necessary changes to create a better world, a world that's based on love and unity, of peace and sharing. What's interesting is that these energies benefit the world, but they also benefit the transmission meditation groups, because it's not possible for these divine higher energies to move through the group without them affecting us on a positive level, right? Benjamin Creme, who wrote the book on transmission meditation and started the first transmission meditation group back in the 70s, made a claim that at first I was a bit skeptical in hearing, but I'm definitely on board with it now. Mr. Creme said that 1 year of correctly steady transmission meditation is equivalent to, say, 10 years or more of a personal meditation. Why is that? Again, it's because of these energies, these very high energies that move through the transmission groups. They really help move us forward in our, I guess you would call it, our evolution and our personal spiritual growth. There is no prior meditation experience needed or necessary to do transmission meditation. A lot of beginners come into transmission meditation. They're very welcomed. And there is no religious or spiritual belief necessary to participate in transmission meditation. Most transmission groups I know are comprised of people of both faith and no faith. I suppose it would be helpful to accept the idea that we live in an energetic universe and that energy is conditional life here on this planet. But if you're interested in service, giving back to the world, if you're interested in growing spiritually, that's a good start if you're interested in doing transmission meditation. Transmission meditation, like other meditations, uses a technique to give the mind something to focus on. That technique for transmission meditation is to focus on a chakra. It's called the Asha Chakra, and it's located right here, right between the eyebrows. Just briefly about the chakras. The word chakra comes from the word Sanskrit. It means wheel or disc or circle. In Chinese medicine, the chakra locations correspond to the acupuncture points. The chakra system, this is very simplistic. It's based on the idea that we have two bodies. We have this dense physical body that we can see with the physical eyes, but we also have an energetic body that receives life energy. And within this energetic body, there are what are called energy centers, chakras, in Sanskrit. There are a lot of chakras within the body. There are 7 major energy chakras aligned along the spine in this energetic body, begins at the base of the spine and ends at the top of the head, 7 major. And then there are very many minor chakras throughout the rest of the body. But getting back to transmission meditation, the technique we use is to focus on the chakra in the forehead area. We hold our attention there throughout the transmission. And again, like other techniques, if a thought enters your mind during the transmission, you don't follow it. You don't give it energy. You don't judge it. You don't judge yourself for having that thought. You just bring your attention back to the forehead area. There's a wonderful little tool that keeps our attention there, and that is sounding what's called the word or the mantra Om, O-M. When we sound the Om, it has a vibratory kind of resonance, the O with the heart and the with the head center chakras, because there's a heart chakra, and then there's a number of chakras aligned in the head. And so the Om brings the focus right back up to the forehead area. Interestingly, and I experience that often, and it's not anything unusual, it's anyone really can experience it, but many people who focus on the Ajna chakra in the forehead begin to actually see it. They see that chakra as kind of an indigo blue color, and often they can see it pulsating in and out. It's quite incredible, but it's not anything anyone else could not do. It's just giving time and effort and focusing there. I wish we could get together today and actually do a transmission meditation, but given the COVID-19 restrictions, we're pretty limited. But if you'd like to learn more about transmission meditation, I encourage you to visit a website called transmissionmeditation.org.org. Again, we have groups here in Pittsburgh. We're not physically meeting at the moment, but we are meeting via Zoom. And if you'd like to join us, I'm happy to give you that information. We're hoping that very soon that the groups can go back to physically meeting together, because although the Zoom is working, we still feel a connection together. We're still feeling the energies flowing through us during the Zoom transmissions. there really is quite a kind of a different supportive element in physically meditating together. I find group meditation much more supportive than meditating at home alone, although I do both. I meditate at home, but I get together with the groups as often as possible. I guess I would say in closing that meditation, there is a wealth of information available on meditation today. Lots of benefits in doing meditation. I think the goal for any of us is to find a meditation that works and just be consistent with it. You don't need to spend a single dime on learning how to meditate. And you can begin to meditate anywhere and at any time. I mean, we're literally, to my mind, we're wired to meditate. You have the breath, and if you have the will to begin, you have really everything, at your fingertips. Again, I would suggest meditating, starting with just a few minutes each day and possibly building up to longer periods if that feels right to you. Meditation does not interfere with any religious or spiritual practice you might be doing. It's just the opposite. It will enhance any of those practices, because the more you meditate, you really become, to my mind, a better person. And if you become a better person, you can contribute so much more to the world around you, and of course to any practice you might be doing. Just kind of hope that this little talk I've shared with you inspires you to give meditation a try. Since I first learned to meditate 30 some years ago, I have come a long way from that mother of no faith. Positive changes have developed in me quietly, subtly since then. Changes on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, and certainly spiritually. Meditation has brought me a deeper level of peace and joy, and has helped me to develop a spiritual life that I never even knew was possible before then. And yes, I've struggled with meditation, with quieting the mind, but I've stayed with it, and it's made all the difference in my life. I'm so grateful I didn't give it up. And all of these benefits that I've reaped, and all the benefits that other people have reaped through meditation, can be yours too. It's just a matter of getting started. I'd like to also invite you to contact me to learn more about transmission meditation. Or if you just want to talk to me about meditation in general, my hope is that you find a meditation that does bring you more joy, more peace into your life. And so feel free to contact me at this number, 412-952-7974. You can text or phone me, either way is fine. So again, I thank you for your time. Hope you're well, and take good care. Thank you.